Our fifth story out front, racial profiling. It is why some say George Zimmerman shot Trayvon Martin, but it's also what some say the New York City Police Department does every day with its stop and frisk policy. That's a policy that allows police to stop, question, and pat down people that they believe could be carrying weapons or drugs. Now, the policy is now being challenged in the courts, and the statistics are actually very interesting. 85% of those stopped in 2011, the latest statistics, were black and Hispanic. Those same groups, though, only make up half the population. Today, Police Commissioner Ray Kelly defended his department in an op-ed, writing, quote, "The NYPD, guilty of saving 7,383 lives. Accusations of racial profiling ignore the fact that violent crime overwhelmingly occurs in minority neighborhoods." So is George Zimmerman guilty of anything more than what the NYPD does every day? New York City Police Commissioner Ray Kelly joins me tonight. And thank you very much for coming on, Commissioner. I mean, this is a fascinating issue. As you know, the FBI report that came out last summer about the Zimmerman case said, look, we don't see any evidence that he was racially profiling or that there was any kind of a hate crime involved in that case. A lot of people believe that he did racially profile Trayvon Martin, even if subconsciously, because he thought he might be a criminal. What do you think?
First of all, you're talking about two private citizens. In terms of what the police department does, these are sworn police officers who are acting pursuant to the law. In every state in the union, there's authority to stop and question, and sometimes frisk individuals who police officers have suspicion that they're about to or are or have committed a crime. And as I say, it's throughout America. It's certainly not being done only in New York. And
fair point.
We believe that we're doing it pursuant to the Constitution, pursuant to the New York state law.
I'm interested just to extrapolate from what you're doing. If you're saying, well, look, crime overwhelmingly occurs in minority neighborhoods, and you have the statistics that you've put out there, 96.3% of New York City shooting victims were black and Hispanic, 97% of the people they shot were black or Hispanic. So when you look at those statistics, you would say, all right, well, it's more likely that someone who's going to shoot somebody is going to be black or Hispanic. So then you would criminally profile, right, as a police officer. But if George Zimmerman did that, there had been in that neighborhood crime that people thought was committed by teenage black men. He's doing the same thing. Private citizen, but isn't he doing the same thing?
No, please, I don't want to get into the Trayvon Martin. It's a terrible tragedy, and I know it's a very significant matter, but we're really talking about, as I say, police officers acting pursuant to the law. You know, they're sworn to protect the people, and that's what we're doing here in New York. And the op-ed today, I think, attempted to show the success of the tactics and strategies that we're using, and it's certainly not limited to stop and question tactics. That's a small portion of what goes on. We are proactive here, and you see the results. We've taken, in the last decade, 10,000 guns off the street, 80,000 other weapons. Murders are down to record lows. They were record low last year. Shootings were record lows. We're down about 30% from those numbers this year. So we submit that something is going right here in New York. It's safer than it's ever been. As you said, there is a lawsuit, and we'll see what happens. The judge has not rendered her decision yet, but we certainly believe that what we're doing is pursuant to the Constitution.
And let me ask you about that, because, you know, look, you're making your case, but the president spoke out last week about race and what it's like to grow up black in America. And he said something that made me actually think exactly of what's happening in New York, and I just wanted to play a little bit of it. Here's the president.
There are very few African-American men in this country who haven't had the experience of being followed when they were shopping in a department store. That includes me. The fact that a lot of African-American boys are painted with a broad brush, and the excuse is given, well, there are these statistics out there that show that African-American boys are more violent. Using that as an excuse to then see sons treated differently causes pain.
He puts an emotional spin on something. I mean, does that make you think twice?
This is a very complex issue.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you are a African-American male in this country, certainly in urban America, you have an awful lot of challenges. What we're doing, I believe, is saving lives in a significant way. The lives that are saved, and the 7,000 that you mentioned, are largely young men of color, because that's who's getting shot on the streets of not only New York but other cities. So it's complex, but you know, the bottom line for us is New York is safer than it's ever been, and these people are arguably alive today because of the strategies and tactics that we put in place.
Well, it's an interesting point you're making, that you're saving lives of color.
Right, exactly.
And that comes with the cost it comes with, in your view. Now, let me just talk about the president, because he said that, but he obviously also has talked a lot about you recently. He said you've done an extraordinary job as police commissioner. He wants to consider you to replace Janet Napolitano as Homeland Security chief. And here's exactly how he said it, because I don't want to paraphrase it. I want to let him say it.
Mr. Kelly might be very happy where he is, but if he's not, I'd want to know about it, because you know, obviously he'd be very well qualified for the job.
Well, that's very nice, very flattering to hear the president say that, but I'm not going to comment any further on it.
And do you think that the stop and frisk, the whole issue with the Zimmerman case, plays into that at all? And I guess the question is, do you care if it does?
Look, we're doing what we think is the right thing here in New York. We're saving lives. As I say, it's safer than it's ever been. We have record lows in shootings, record lows in murders, and people are alive today because of the tactics that we are using.